Episode 11 of
Division I Rejects. Back again for a great week. We got a big-time week with some big-time conversation, accordingly so. So starting off, our guests today for the podcast will be joined by a linebacker from Wayne State University and one of the state's top recruits later on with 12 Division I offers, a lineman out of Cass Tech High School in Detroit.
Sheesh.
That is more than all of us combined. I think that's easy to say.
D1? Yeah.
And you might be thinking, this is D1 Rejects. Why would you have a Division I football player on? We don't discriminate.
We're
all
built
levels,
different.
Yeah, okay. All levels of football are welcome on here. So
like
it's always nice to get people's perspectives from all the different levels of college football. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation here in a bit. But not to get too ahead of ourselves, we've got the firing of Detroit head coach Matt Patricia, but not only Matt Patricia, but Bob Quinn is also gone. So I think this is a little bit of a time to celebrate, but I think Lions fans are still cautiously optimistic, and we'll get into that pretty soon. I think you would agree with me there, though, cautiously optimistic?
The crazy thing is, this is the biggest thing that's happened for the Lions all year.
That's so true.
Like, this
so
is the
true.
most happy thing. Yeah. We'll
That's so true. But it's, like I said, cautiously optimistic because I still am not in love with our ownership and the direction of our program, excuse me. But later on, Sarah Johnson and her impact as the first female to play in a Power 5 football game on Saturday for Vanderbilt. Very polarizing. I think people have opinions on both sides of that. We're not going to spend too long on it. I know, Drew, you know, keep it short and sweet, but I do want to touch on that because that was a big-time point in the slate of college football for last week. Now, some news that just broke very recently. We have College Game Day, who's now covering a top 15 matchup between BYU and Coastal Carolina on Saturday. What that is going to mean for the college football playoff, we don't know yet. And I think that's going to be it's a win-win for both teams. We're going to, like I said, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it later. But right off the bat, that is a win for both teams. Coastal Carolina obviously supposed to play Liberty. Now Liberty's got to cancel because of COVID and issues. That's a win-win for both programs, correct?
For BYU being trying to get in the playoffs and also Coastal Carolina being a kind of no-name team that a lot of people are going to see now.
Yeah, agreed. And they're going to rock the mullets on live television, some prime-time television with College Game Day there.
A great turf.
It's the biggest weekend of the year for those guys. I'm sure they're so excited. And two undefeated teams. We didn't even say that. They're two undefeated teams now. I don't care who you play. If you're undefeated, you're playing a good brand of football. So after that, we'll talk College Game Day, college football, some Big Ten, MACtion. Going to get into DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, and some other insane performances from this past week of NFL football as we start to etch out the playoff race for the NFL, AFC, NFC. What does it look like? How is it shaping up? We had three guys in the span of 1 week between Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and DK Metcalf who were all at one point the NFL leader in receiving yards. And it's just gone back and forth because these dudes like continue to put up numbers that are out of this world.
The new NFL, man.
It is.
It's a passing league.
It is. And we saw a very little run game from the Chiefs in that last game against the Bucs. So,
we'll get into that, but
Le'Veon, Alaire, they've got the weapons. They're just not making advantage of it. So, very interesting aspect of their game that has kind of evolved as we continue on into the season. But as always, we're chilling in the basement. It's Division I Rejects, the casual sports show, talking to some great guys at all levels of football. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Tell your friends about us. And let's get some great people. Continue to get great people. I shouldn't say that. Let's continue to get some great people. We've had some great guests in the past. I want to continue to do that. So first things first, I want to welcome our first guest of the day. Let's cut right to that conversation, boys. Joining us today, a conversation I'm super excited about. He is an absolute unit, class of 2022, so still got lot of football.
Young buck,
a lot of football ahead of this guy. But if you looked at him, you sure as hell would not know it. 6'5", 285 is what he's listed at. That is a beast. So I'm going to say a man, right? A man who holds offers from Big Ten, SEC, Pac-12, and ACC schools, and a guy that I sure as hell am not volunteering to line up against. It's Jackson Pruitt. What's going on, Jackson?
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. I'm stoked to have you on. Like, I'm super excited for this. But I guess to start things right off, I want to know, I've seen your film. You got a lot of film on both sides of the ball, and you dominate on both sides of the ball. How would you describe your game and how you play? I just want to see, just coming from your perspective, I know from an outsider's perspective, I just want to see how you would describe it.
Really, it's just about moving dudes out the way, just
moving dudes. Hell yeah.
Give my running back somewhere to go, running back or quarterback, give them somewhere to go, and just don't each time there's gonna be a hole on my side, and that's just pretty much just how I play.
That's right. Oh man, I love that. Like you said, just moving dudes, and you do a ton of that, right? Finishing blocks downfield is something that I noticed that you do on a very regular basis, and I love that. Playing with that motor to turn those maybe like decent or mediocre plays for your skill position guys into some big time touchdowns. And then kind of flipping off of that, is there anybody that you relate your game to at like the college or professional level, or someone that you model your game after? Or is it, I'm going to be me and I'm going to play my game?
Well, I'm just really playing my game, really.
Yep.
But I watch a lot of Quinn and Nelson and Jackson.
Okay.
Really. So
Yeah.
Taylor Lee Wan as well. So,
Yep.
Just really aggressive dudes that finish their blocks and doing it on a big stage every Sunday.
Quentin Nelson's a beast.
Dude, some good examples right there. I'll give you that for sure. Especially when you pull out of there and you're coming outside of the line of scrimmage there for a poor defensive end or outside linebacker, I can definitely see the Quentin Nelson comparisons when you're just like driving him into the ground. But and like I said, you got a lot of film on both sides of the ball. Do you prefer playing offense or defense, or does it just? I mean, you might be the type of guy that it just doesn't matter to you.
It doesn't really matter. The
Yep.
team need, but like you can see, like in my earlier films, like last year and year before, I was pretty much like a straight defensive guy.
Okay.
And then Coach, my trainer, Coach Wins and Coach Butcher said, "How about you try offensive guard?"
Yeah.
I played it before I came to high school, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so then I just worked real hard at it, and then just come to find out I'm actually pretty good at it.
I think a lot of college coaches would say the exact same thing. And I know making that transition and going to play guard, like 6'5", like you're a dude of that stature. You don't see a lot of
You're playing tackle at 6'5".
I was going to say,
usually.
yeah, you don't see a lot of guys, especially in high school, but even at the college level, you don't see a ton of guys playing the guard at that size. So for you to be able to not only have that size, but that speed, like I was talking about,
mobile.
to get out, I mean, that's just phenomenal play from you. So I guess, and from talking to you for, like a minute here, I can already tell that you're a grounded dude. So I really appreciate that. But just to continue going with that, I'd like to know what you're being looked at more for playing at the college level. Do they see you on the defensive side, or do they really liking you on this offensive guard play?
They talking about we play on the
Yep.
the offensive line anywhere. As you see, like I've lined up at tackle a couple of times,
Yep.
center a few times.
Okay.
So really, it's just like wherever I go, like we just figure it out when I get there, I guess. But I assume I'm doing the offensive side of the ball, unless next year I have a monster year on defense or something. But I think for the most part, I'm be offense.
All right.
Hey, man, Hunter Chambers here. I play up at Tech, and I know, like, when I play offensive guard up there, and I know that's huge. Like, you're saying that you could play tackle, you can play guard. Like, colleges love that, just you're versatile, and I know that's huge for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
For sure. I want to talk about this year as far as you playing, and still obviously at the high school level. Like we said, you got a lot of football ahead of you, a lot of really good football ahead of you, obviously. What was your junior season like, this shortened season? Did it seem to be like just playing per usual once you got on the field, like, kind of just block out all the external noise? Or I would assume it was particularly odd having the limited fans and the different rules in the shortened season. What was that like?
This season was pretty awkward, but it just kind of brought my team closer.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time together. Knowing us trying to like not go out as much and stuff. So we spent a lot of time together. Playing the game together. Like we might meet up and eat or whatever, but it's just us. Really, it's really like kind of I want to say like our own little bubble. I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Those for the past maybe 12 weeks. Those are the guys I really been seeing. And I wouldn't have it no other way. So I think really this season it's been different, but I think for the most part it brought us together more as a family, as a team. And like even like regardless like what happens the rest of the season, I think like we're just that much close. Like I know I can rely on these guys forever now.
That was awesome. I love that, dude. You guys, that takes a special group of guys too, I know, because, to get all those guys to buy in, especially right now, like you said, you can't go out and do a lot of the things that you would call normal just a year ago. It takes a special group of guys to buy in. I think the word that you used to describe the season, awkward, I think that is a perfect description of what this year has been so far. And especially for you, playing in high school right now. But how has your mindset changed, if at all, which I'm assuming for you it's just, next practice, next game, but just humor me here. How has your mindset changed, if at all, when approaching, this type of shortened season and only getting so many chances to compete?
It's just trying to come out and dominate everything. That mindset never changed. So I think once you get used to that, everything seems like it's back to normal for at least those 4 quarters.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Yep, and so it's just about just worrying about what you can control the controllable.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Now I want to say I did not have nearly the amount of opportunities to play at the next level as you have, and I know that is definitely for a reason. I've seen you play, right? But for me, even the process of picking a school it seemed like the most stressful thing in the world at times for me. And I want to know what your perspective has been like just trying to narrow down some of these schools. I saw you picked up an offer from Kent State earlier, actually, so congratulations, first of all, on that. But I want to know what your perspective has been like trying to narrow things down, and you still have a year of football ahead of you at the high school level. So what has that been like? I mean, you're just trying to just really narrow your options at this point, or how does that process go for you?
I mean, it's been kind of pretty awkward. This whole time being at Cavs, I've been watching people get offers and stuff.
Yeah.
And doing the process and stuff, and then I'm like, it's finally my turn, and everything gets shut out. So it's just weird not being able to go anywhere or talk to people in person. So
seriously, yeah.
Just talking to people over Zoom, over the phone, whatever I could do. Just making the best of the process right now.
Of course.
I'm trying to rush to the best. So that's really the most important thing.
All right, Jackson. So I'm Drew Carpenter here from Northwood University. I got a question for you. Actually, I got two. Understanding that you go to Cas Tech, right? And Cas Tech has been known to produce college talent. I think
NFL talent.
NFL talent. That's where I was going with. I'm pretty sure they're like top 10 in the country for most guys currently in the NFL.
Oh.
So how does it feel to be a part of something that has that level of greatness that what to expect out of your coaches? You're going to get some of the best guys in the state coming to your school. How does that feel for you?
Good question.
It's crazy, and really, I didn't have my welcome to Cass Tech moment until last year against Forest, and I come off the field, I see Donovan Peoples-Jones, Mike Weber, Michael Owen, everybody just standing on the sideline.
Man,
I'm like, oh my God. So
awesome.
that really flipped the switch, made you want to work that much harder to get with those guys right now.
Yeah.
And, and it just is about mindset, about competing.
Yeah, so my next question is kind of a personal question. I'm teaming up at Northwood with Daniel Wynn. I'm pretty sure you know Daniel Wynn. What are your thoughts on Daniel Wynn real quick?
Dan's a great leader. He's a great leader. He breathes the energy on the field.
For sure.
I like that.
He goes to get you a big play if you need one, and he picks you up when you're down. Definitely. Definitely when you're down. He's the first dude to come pick your head up.
And then
Dan's a great guy.
Yeah, and then one last thing too. Actually, Cas Tech and Detroit King might be the biggest rivalry in the state. And I'm teaming up with also Marquise Knowlton. I don't know if you know him. He's a big boy.
I do.
Yeah. So speak on that rivalry real quick, because for us, our biggest rivalries are Oxford Lake Orion and Oxford Clarkston and Clarkston Lake Orion. So speak on your little rivalry with King.
The King rivalry is nothing. You can't. I don't even know how to describe it. Really, it's just a war in between them. Like on that King team, some of my best friends on that team,
awesome.
Dante. I pretty much grew up with Dante. Dante was my quarterback all through Little League. So
Sweet.
It's kind of weird, lining up against them and stuff like that. But that's just a crazy battle. I would never, I understand how crazy it is, but at least I can know for as long as I live, I beat him twice.
Keith and Dan were going at it all semester, just about King and Kaz. And
I saw the video. He woke up Dan at 8 a.m.
Yeah, Dan let him have it after when Kaz Tech won.
Yeah, man. Well, you said it was awkward to line up against him. I bet for him it was probably scary, to be honest, to see you on the other side of that line. But let's turn back the time a little bit. Let's look at the beginning of this year, where you picked up that first big-time offer from Kentucky back in January, and then that kind of just opened up the doors, because then almost immediately after that, you picked up two more from Colorado and Maryland in the span of a week. And I obviously, like I said, I don't have experience with this, but I'd imagine it just felt great to get the ball rolling and getting your name out there. What did it feel like to have all that happen so suddenly and just burst onto the scene like that?
It was crazy. That was a crazy day. My worries was a basketball game. I wasn't thinking about getting offers and stuff. I was one of the guys. I was like, it'll come in the spring or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, coaches would come and stuff. I introduced them and everything, and then I just get on with my day. And then the day I got also Kentucky, everything just started rolling. Really,
that's awesome.
That was probably I could tell you that day how that whole day went from breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's awesome. I love that, dude. I love that. And you're not going to forget that. I really doubt it. That's just something that, after you're gone and through that process, something you're not really going to replicate. But, shoot, maybe you go and play on Sundays here, knock on wood or anything. But I think that's just an awesome experience that you're going to have a hard time replicating. But moving on from that, what are some of the things that you look at for in a potential school or a program when you're making this decision? You talked about how you're trying to at least narrow down from your choices. Outside of the obvious things like the strength of the program, like what was the team's record last year, or like if they have the academic programs, what are some of the smaller things about maybe the way the coaches interact or the guys at the school that make a positive impression on you looking at them?
So something I look at really is, do the coaches guys come back? Like when they make the NFL and stuff, do they come back and say, "Oh, I gotta come get some work in with coach," or stuff like that, or we gotta go chill with coach? You know, somewhere I know, like, it's not just when I'm there my 4 or 5 years, however long I'm there, it's not just, oh, okay, you did what you had to do, all right, now, all right, I don't want to see no more. You know, really just a family feel. And just trying to get that, because you can get a good education anywhere, let's be honest.
That's very true. A lot of those schools that you have opportunities from right now to play at the next level, you're going to get, you're really going to get a great education no matter where you end up, and you're going to get a positive football experience. Right now, it's just about obviously picking the best one for you and the fit for you, but that is a great point. I have not really thought about that too much. Just like, especially from these schools you're talking about with a lot of alumni in the National Football League, do they come back? Do they, it's not a 4 or 5 year decision like you're talking about. It's like a 40-year decision. Yeah, exactly, man. So that was a great point. But you talked about earlier how you're talking with these guys on Zoom and on the phone, and how it's been difficult because you're not on campus. You haven't really been able to visit a lot of these schools because of COVID and get a sense of the feel on campus maybe, and how just the university operates. How do you, kind of get around that, and what has that been like?
Well, to be honest, this is probably one of the perks of Cass. We got a lot of alumni in college. So most of the offers and stuff that I have, like, either someone from Cass goes there, someone from Cass went there, something like that.
That's awesome.
So I'll connect with them. They'll tell me about the campus or whatever. And then, like, I might do a virtual visit or something.
Okay.
And then, but, like, as soon as they don't plan to lift up the lockdowns, I'll probably just go on self-guided visits and stuff. Okay. And I'll see campus for myself.
Yeah, because I know at least like for your junior year, you're limited to a certain amount of official visits, correct? How many is that? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it's three or 4.
Okay, somewhere around there. I'm not going to be here to correct you. I don't know. But anyways, that'll be good for you, especially when you get out of this lockdown, to be able to go and explore some of that. What are the virtual visits been like? I know I have a younger brother who's a senior right now at Lake Orion High School, and he's been going through that process a little bit, but I haven't talked to him too much about it. So I want to know, what have the virtual visits been like from these schools?
To be honest, it's kind of like that. How the visit will go there. They take you through their academics, or take you through all the facilities and stuff. Give you a little breakdown and stuff.
Okay.
It's all in the span of about 30 minutes to hours.
Man,
and, you get to talk to staff and stuff, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's not too bad. I guess to transition here, the last thing I have for you before we let you go today, and I really appreciate your time because this has been one of my favorite conversations so far for sure. Let's talk about some game picks. And I know I texted you earlier and said we're going to talk about Indiana and Wisconsin, but I'm not sure if you saw the news. BYU is now going to be playing against Coastal Carolina on Saturday. Did you see that earlier today?
Yep, I did see that.
So, and College Game Day is going to be there. We're going to get into it right after this in the podcast, but who are you taking in that game? I know he kind of just sprung it on you here, but number 8 BYU, number 14 Coastal Carolina, 2 undefeated teams in the top 15. Who are you picking for the win?
I think I got BYU right now.
Yeah,
I got BYU. That quarterback they have is pretty nice, and they right now.
He is pretty nice.
Right now. I was watching the game the other day, and I had to double check, make sure this was the right BYU I was watching.
That is awesome. Yeah, Zach Wilson has been balling out for the Cougars, and I'm gonna have to lean towards that, but I think Coastal Carolina is gonna make that game super competitive. And I will say, I don't know.
Definitely.
I don't know if I'd be surprised if they did pull it out, but I'd have to err on the side of BYU as well. Now, on the NFL scene, huge game this week. Browns, Titans coming off that huge win against the Colts. The Browns with Myles Garrett back. We're going to talk about that too, but they're looking for a big-time win, to kind of a prove-it game. Who do you have in that one?
I got the Browns, and I got Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, baby.
There we go.
Yes, my man. Let's go.
Drew's our resident Browns fan here, so that one made his day.
Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield, he got to prove a lot of people wrong this week.
So. Yeah, he does. He does.
We got this, Jackson. Don't worry about it. We got it.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I can't even tell you how much that I really enjoyed that, man. I appreciate your time. So, best of luck as you continue down this recruiting process, and have a great weekend. Watch some football, my man.
I appreciate you having me.
Of course, man. I'll see you.
All right, see you.
All right, so we're going to have I think that's going to be something we're going to do with a lot of our guests from now on is the game picks. I like that. Kind of ties it into our conversation a little bit more. I like to see what they had to say. But Jackson, awesome dude. Super grounded, super humble. I don't think you see that from a lot of guys in his position. So,
yeah, I would say the same thing. Yes.
You know, I mean, you like to think so, but I think he had a really good mindset and like outlook on everything, especially with how difficult it would be right now to be recruited at that level. I mean, I even said like I don't have nearly the amount of opportunities, and that shit was
none of us did.
That was stressful. Like it was stressful to pick a school. Yeah. I mean, it really was. So for him to be able to do that and have that outlook, it was awesome. So going off the game picks, Coastal Carolina, number 14. They're slated to play Liberty, who is, 9-1 right now, correct? And Liberty comes up with some positive COVID cases, and their football program has to pull out of that game. Now, it's a big deal because not only is it a 9-1 team versus number 14 ranked team in the country, but College Game Day is showing up on campus for the first time in Coastal Carolina. So, what?
Game Day.
Oh, I thought you were about to break some news or something.
So
you scared me. But anyways,
I'm good.
Game Day showing up to campus, and all of a sudden we don't have an opponent. So what happens? BYU finally lives up to their statement of anytime, anywhere, and I believe they're starting to feel that pressure of the College Football Playoff Committee.
Sure.
Right? I mean, they should have been feeling it a lot longer before this. They should have picked up that game against, Washington?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, but, hey, better late than never, right? And against the number 14 team in the country, they need this one.
It's going to be a good game, yes.
They need this one.
If they win this game, if BYU walks away with this victory, the College Football Playoffs got to start taking them seriously.
They really have to.
Especially, I mean, you look at Coastal Carolina, they're not the big name, like beating Wisconsin or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're an undefeated team
But
at the
if
FBS
you're
level.
the 14th ranked team, you're obviously a good team.
Yeah, that's very true. And then, like you said, the biggest argument against BYU and the Cougars has been their strength of schedule. Mm-hmm. And I did notice, I was looking at the amount of votes that each program received today. And after you get past that number 8 spot, they're sitting at around 1,100 votes. It goes from 1,100 down to 800 something. So number 8 is really anywhere from 8 up. So you have Florida, Texas A&M. Who's the rest in that mix?
Ohio State.
Ohio State's the number 4. But anywhere in that mix, 1 through 8.
Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, OSU, Texas A&M, Florida, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yep, Georgia. Okay, so anywhere.
By the way, Georgia should not be in the top 10.
No.
That's a good point. But anywhere in that 1 to 8, the amount of votes, just going off strictly the amount of votes, anyone in there, it's anyone's game as far as who's going to end up in that playoff picture. So we're talking about how their biggest gripe with BYU has been their strength of schedule. I was looking at Ohio State's strength of schedule. Now, they obviously have not had the amount of games that they would have liked, sitting right now at 4-0. But let's look at, they had wins over Nebraska, Penn State, and Rutgers, teams that have a combined record of 4-13 currently, with their only notable win coming against Indiana last week, which, first of all, they did not look nearly as dominant as they usually do because they were playing a solid. He did. That was a big reason why. And we talked about it before the show. Penix is going to be out for this week's game against Wisconsin. So I would assume that Indiana, he probably will be.
Might be out for the year. I think he tore something.
I'm assuming that Indiana ranking is only going to plummet, which makes that win for Ohio State just mean less and less. So assuming they get these next 2 games in, they sit at 6-0.
I wouldn't say less and less because
they beat them at full strength.
That's true. At full strength. So I don't.
That's
I
true.
think
if Indiana
the College
got
Football
worse.
Committee is not going to be like, oh, now their quarterback got hurt.
Yeah, that's
they're going
fair.
to drop. They're going to be like, they beat them at full strength. They had their good quarterback. Ohio State, I think, will be in.
If Indiana got worse with Penix in, then they'd be like,
Then
it wasn't that good of a win.
That's very true. Actually, good point.
And it might prove that if Indiana does get worse, it'd be like, wow, when they did have them, they were really good.
Yeah.
And so for Ohio State, that might be good. And look at Ohio State, too. You said Penn State.
Yeah.
0-4
for the first time. Or 0-5 now, right? Yeah.
No, they beat Michigan.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Who would have thought that Ohio State, you look at Ohio State's schedule, you're like, all right, well, they're always going to play Michigan. They're always going to play Penn State. And within the last 5 years since Harbaugh and Franklin have been there, you're like, all right, these guys are going to be ranked top 20.
Yeah.
Top
Those
15.
have been the Big Ten matchups.
Yeah.
That's what it's been.
And now Ohio State's like, oh, we really could have used a non-conference against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Like, they were supposed to play
Notre
Oregon.
Dame. Yeah, Oregon. Okay.
That would have been a great
That'd have
game.
been huge. Now look at the next 2 games for Ohio State right now. They're in East Lansing this weekend.
Win.
Yeah, we chalk that one up anyway.
Nah,
but
Mel Tucker's got them.
Mel Tucker.
Hey, you never
but
know.
The week after, they've got Michigan.
Will not be played. It's
So yeah, and Kirk Herbstreit caught some flack for this.
Michigan
just
called
called
their
off
game.
their game against
Maryland.
first year in program history that Michigan will not end with a win at the Big House.
Yeah,
Crazy.
they did not win a game in the Big House.
Jim
this year
Harbaugh
for the first
era.
time ever.
Lowest of lows.
Yeah, that really is. That
Wow.
really is. But
That is crazy to think about.
I saw it
That
today
is
on
crazy
Twitter.
to think
even if
about.
you look at Ohio State goes 6-0, and I know they are a great team because it's Ohio State, and that's the only reason. It's because of their pedigree and their standing in their quarterback of the last couple years. Their pedigree, that's what's keeping them at the number 4 spot right now. Because who's going to vote out Ohio State?
But the thing is, so right now, since Michigan State beat Northwestern, who is Ohio State going to be playing in the Big Ten championship? Is it going to be Wisconsin?
Well,
good question.
Wisconsin,
or is it going to
probably.
be Northwestern? Because Northwestern's probably going to win out, but they got beat by a sorry Michigan State team.
And, Wisconsin's games kept getting canceled. And I saw this. David Pollack brought it up on the show where they announced the rankings and everything.
Wisconsin's ranked 16, Northwestern's 14.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I saw.
Surprised Northwestern is still that high, by the way. But go ahead, Drew.
Listen to this. So if
Listening.
if David Pollack said that if Ohio State, let's just say they don't make the Big Ten championship because of if Michigan cancels,
If they're not eligible,
Yes.
only 5 games, 4 or 5 games.
So they would. Big Ten did this really cool thing where it's called Champions Week, where you still play another game.
Really?
Every team plays that during that week. So they could potentially play Wisconsin, which could be a bigger resume builder than playing a Northwestern in the Big Ten championship.
That is something to think about.
Because
So did they just recently do that? They expanded
just
by a
this
week?
year. It's just this year.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's kind of not gotten the light that I feel like it deserves.
Interesting.
Because
That's the first time.
That's the
I'm
first
hearing
time
about
I've
Pollack
heard
brought
of
it
it,
up,
too.
and I was like, wow, that's actually really interesting because,
Champions Week.
I mean, let's be real. Northwestern's, I just don't feel like they're that good.
No, they're
like,
not.
And I was really high
Their
on
defense
them.
has been
We
kind
were
of
high on
bailing them
Pat
out.
Fitzgerald, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
He
But
doesn't,
like, yeah, but
he doesn't get the recruiting that he deserves. He's a
yeah,
great
but like
coach.
Pat Fitzgerald's been winning games that he shouldn't have won, frankly. And that's
exactly.
why they were propelled into that number 8 spot in the country. Their defense was bailing them out in big time games. Wisconsin, most notably, that's why they got that huge boost. But kind of going back to that Coastal Carolina BYU game, I think another good perspective to look at it is the Cougars quarterback, Zach Wilson, who we talked about with our guests today a little bit about he's just balling out, and Jackson said he was nice. So I guess, he's kind of nice. Yeah. But this gives him another chance to prove on a large stage against a top 15 opponent why he deserves to be back in that Heisman conversation. Because we've advocated for Trask. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to be in the conversation either way.
AJ.
Mac Jones is going to be, I think he's still at the top of that conversation right now.
I think Mac Jones is
voting
in the lead
wise
right now. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't see Alabama losing the game this year. I think Alabama's going
They're taking
back to
it?
I think they're taking it. Mac looks good. Unfortunately, Waddle got hurt.
All
but,
facets. But yes, that's
Smith
a big time.
is still there.
Yep.
I mean, it's Alabama. They're all 5 stars on that team.
Hell yeah, they are.
They're playing against the best, playing with the best coach in college football.
Okay.
So,
What are we talking? Which Alabama?
Well,
yeah, Nick
he's got
Saban,
COVID, but
Yeah.
best coach in college football.
2 COVID scares this year for Nick Saban.
Back to you said Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
I'm looking this up right now because I currently don't know it. But when was the last non-Power 5 player win the Heisman?
That's a great question.
Because
and I don't know the answer to that.
remember Randy Moss was in it when it was
Marshall?
him, Woodson, and Manning.
Okay.
But he didn't win.
So
And
they've had a candidate
So
for
you're
sure.
talking about the top 3s.
No,
that
no,
won
I'm
the-
No,
just
that's the
saying in general,
candidate.
Like, I don't think I can't remember the last time.
Nothing
someone
comes
won.
up from my recent memory as far as if that were to happen. Go ahead.
Marshall Falk got into the top 5
Oh, yeah.
at San Diego State.
Oh,
He finished second and fourth.
what league are they?
BYU's an independent, correct?
BYU is an independent.
Yes.
Those Mormons.
But they're playing in the ACC this year.
Yes. And the last top 5 finisher, Keenan Reynolds, Navy's quarterback in 20.
Wait, BYU's not in the ACC. Notre Dame's in the ACC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, BYU is still independent. I was
Yeah.
thinking about that. Yeah.
So they're just finding games.
Yeah, they're just finding games.
Other notable names, Kellen Moore at Boise was in the top 4. And
Moore, Detroit Lions back
Yep.
up for a little bit.
OC at the
OC
Cowboys
at
now.
Cowboys now.
Is he
And
really? I didn't
Alex
know that.
Smith, before Utah joined the Pac-12, he was ranked 4th. In the Heisman.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. A little
He's got a
tidbit.
chance. Yeah.
He does.
So I would say for Zach Wilson to come back in the Heisman, he has to put up at least 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he has to beat Coastal Carolina willingly. Like, if it's a close game, I would
Handedly beat Coastal
Handedly.
Carolina. I agree.
I would say,
I
'cause
agree.
with Trask and Mac Jones up there, I say those are the top 2 right now.
Because Lawrence had to miss, and still
Lawrence-
their strength of schedule in the ACC, top to bottom, has not been.
So I don't see Lawrence winning it, and he'll probably be gone next year.
Even though he probably is the best player
I was
in
just
college
about
football.
to say that he's.
But he just has.
It's just, he doesn't, missing that game against Notre Dame.
COVID season.
And
Yeah.
you also think about this with Trevor Lawrence too. How many times is he out by halftime?
Yeah.
They're
lot.
beating teams so
Very
much.
true. I didn't think about that.
If you think about
Because you get to pat those stats.
Exactly. And the amount of I'd love to see the like splits of like his stats if it was like projected he played the full game
Yeah.
versus like a guy like Justin Fields who's putting up big numbers and he's usually in the game by the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Even against teams like Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But we'll get into some Big Ten here in a minute. But something that I want to touch on is Sarah Fuller and her making history with the squib kick at Vanderbilt. And I want to say right off the bat that I don't think she was set up necessarily for success.
No, she was not.
Just because from a standpoint of somebody who knows football, obviously the three of us, I would like to think know the game pretty well. The kick, just for somebody who doesn't know the game, it looks weak. When you take a squib kick like that, the idea is to just pin the defense and really to eliminate a return. That's the whole idea of kicking a squib or like pooch, I guess it could be another word for it, different type of kick. But when you do that, you're just trying to eliminate the possibility of a return. Now, for Vanderbilt, you suck. Your team is terrible. I don't know if
their coach after that game.
They did fire their coach after that game.
Stick to baseball.
I don't know. I don't know what, like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Let her, for me, it was like, first of all, I want to say, like, good for her. Like, good for her to go out there. They needed a kicker.
So something,
it's a cool story.
Yeah, they needed a kicker. It's not
did.
like
Yeah.
she went to the football coach and was like,
I want to
hey,
kick.
I want to play.
Yeah.
They literally sought her out to kick. So
Exactly.
That's awesome. Like, she wasn't like,
She's not
I
a
want on the
charity
team, I want
case.
on the
Yeah,
team.
it's like, yeah.
She, like, they needed her.
Yeah,
They didn't
I
have
think,
a kicker.
and I think that's what separates this for some people being like, oh, like they just wanted a girl on the team to like, you know, girl power, whatever. No, that was not the case. That was not the case. Like you said, they sought her out and brought her on the team. Now, a thing that brings her down a peg or two, it was reported by ESPN's Courtney Cronin, hopefully I'm saying that correct, is that Sarah Fuller came in during halftime, and she was so not pleased with the Vanderbilt team, by the way, is not win a game this year, and they still have not, that she thought it was okay to come in and give a halftime speech to the guys about their attitude. And let me just, here's the initial reaction. And that was my initial reaction. And when I immediately read this story, I thought it was fake. I was like, there's no way, I thought this.
No way. No,
She's coming. No. Here we go.
Way.
Here we go. There were direct quotes from her. It was reported by ESPN's Courtney Cronin. Did I say that again? And it was later verified in an ESPN article. So this is not like a one-time thing. And then obviously many other publications after ESPN reported the story. And it has been verified. She has not denied it. Nothing. She's owned up to it. And that's just not her place. And I don't want to like go into too much of it. And
That's not a new person on the team's place.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not that because she's a girl. It's just you've been on the team for a week.
That's what I wanted to differentiate. Is like I do not think it's your place. Not because you are a female in what has been predominantly a male sport. If first of all you are a kicker, and I hate to say no.
Hey,
Matty P.
Pat McAfee.
I would listen to him.
Of course. And Pat McAfee's my dude. That's my
Dave
favorite show
Rayner,
of all
Oxford
time.
grad.
But
Shout out.
even Pat McAfee and Rayner and all these guys would agree that it is not the kicker's place to come in and give I'm going to run through a brick wall halftime speech to these guys. That's not their place. And like you said, this is her, I don't know, she's been on the team for less than a week. And all of a sudden, she's going to draw all these conclusions about a team like that, right? Their
she
team
doesn't
sucks.
know anything.
Their team sucks.
Yeah.
Well, she knows a lot about teamwork. Her soccer team at Vanderbilt actually just came off an SEC championship run. So, I mean, obviously, she's a great athlete. No question there.
She must be a great
and
great
she
leader
knows
if
she knows being about a great leader and a great teammate. More importantly, but she came in and started talking about how the attitude of the guys needed to change immediately, and how they needed to do this and. I just had to assume that the locker room was looking at her like, "Are you serious right now?"
Yeah. No,
right? How would
sure.
I'm just trying to imagine that the reaction that they would have had, and imagine this is kind of a stupid analogy, but imagine if a guy, for whatever reason, the soccer team needed a player, and a guy came on, not necessarily from the football team, but a guy came on and he was there for a few days. How would she feel if he came in at halftime and was like, or I don't know, is there halftime in soccer?
I don't know if it's necessarily possible because there is a men's soccer team.
No, they don't have a men's soccer team.
Oh, really?
Vanderbilt does not have a men's soccer team. That's why they did not recruit a guy from the men's soccer team, because they don't have one. There you go.
Yeah.
So my point,
baseball.
And the only
my
reason,
point,
and the only reason
yeah.
why there was like one reason that the only like she was coming back to like grab stuff from home, like because none of the soccer players were on campus.
Yeah.
She was just there that weekend, and the coach was like, "We need you."
Yep. Yeah, because their season's over. So how would it be if a guy comes in and you've got this obviously very different situation because her team, obviously with the SEC championship game, big time team, they're winning games, they've got a good culture established, whatever. He comes in, he's going to give you a speech. I don't know if they have halftime in soccer games, but he's going to give you a speech. How would you feel if an outsider just came in and all of a sudden just made all these assumptions?
An outsider.
An outsider.
Respect to,
not a male, not a female.
Respect to her. No disrespect, but an outsider in that sport. It's not your place. I don't think we need to touch on it.
The last thing.
I agree.
It'd be really cool if you're like, you're in a big game. Let's just say, the big Tim Tebow speech. We got 30 minutes.
Tim Tebow, I could run through a wall for Tim Tebow.
I mean, it doesn't even matter if it was Tim Tebow.
And then pray right afterwards.
Exactly. But, you want the guy.
Please let me run through this wall, Lord.
You want the guy that was sweating next to you for workouts.
Went right through everything with you.
Waking up at 5 in the morning.
That's a good point.
And not the girl who was like, I'm going to put pads on for a week and kick for you guys.
That's true. So
and
to
not
finish,
even just for the girl.
To finish off our conversation, I don't want to dwell on it too much. And like I said, I have the utmost respect for her for even going out in the field. I'd imagine, shoot, none of us are going to play in a Power 5 game in our lifetime. So
Vanderbilt, if you ever did call.
Kicked in Pee-wee. Sarah Fuller said that she would love to stick around on the team as long as they'll have her. And even though the returning kickers for Vanderbilt are coming out of quarantine, they're going to be back on the roster. I don't think it's going to be a burden for them to keep her around. It's a good PR move.
She was
especially
SEC
with
Player of the Week.
Yep, she was.
We're
not going to touch on it.
Mac Jones, who had 5 touchdowns, 3
special teams player of the week. Special teams player of the week. Co-special teams player of the week. So it's not like easy. But I don't think it's a burden for them to keep her around, especially now they're going to have an interim head coach for
like you said.
For the foreseeable future. They're going to have an interim head coach to come into that program that has seen nothing but failure in the past couple weeks. Do you think? I just hope it's not a distraction for them. Which at this point doesn't really matter. You're 0-8, a fired head coach. You don't have any success. I think we'll just
get through the season.
Right. We'll just leave it at that.
Let's get a game.
But I did want to touch on that before we transitioned over into some Big Ten football because that was some big time news for college football on the scene of college football.
It was everywhere.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on from that. Big Ten football. We already touched on it a little bit earlier. Talked about Ohio State. We didn't talk about Michigan State with their big-time upset over number 8 Northwestern. Huge upset. That I will say my dad, Jim Manzo, did call, even though I thought he was
Shout out, Jim.
full of it. Shout out, Jim. He wants to be on the podcast. We have to get him on.
Get him on next week. Come on.
We might.
Holiday special.
Holiday special.
Holiday special. Just get him down for NFL.
Yeah. Maybe. He'll make a guest appearance. But putting them on, Michigan State as one of the only 3 teams this year with multiple wins over the AP top 15 opponents.
That's just crazy.
That is wild because their win over Michigan, top 15.
So is this game, this weekend, a trap game for Ohio State? Does Mel Tucker have the card for top 25 teams? What does he know that we don't know? Is this a trap game?
Trap. I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't.
Think about that.
Well, they might be looking past this game at the dogfight that's going to be in Columbus with Michigan.
Impossible. But right now, I just feel like Ohio State, I'd be very interested to feel like what the vibe is in that locker room. I would assume that, with Ryan Day, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan
Correct.
Day?
Yep.
With Ryan Day at the helm, they're not going to be looking past necessarily any opponents.
I don't think so.
I would assume they have the same mindset going into each week. But with all of the questions surrounding now BYU gets this big-time game against Coastal Carolina. All of these things are not shaking out for the Buckeyes.
Ohio State has to win out, and they have to win out
in a
handedly.
dominant fashion.
Yes.
Not even handily.
Don't forget about
dominant fashion.
Their in-state, not rivals, but Cincinnati Bearcats.
That's very true. That's a good point. Luke Fickell and the Bearcats. But they are looking at possibly being out of college football playoff contention, sitting at 4-0. They need both of these next 2 games at East Lansing and Michigan. And we did talk about that Champions Week, which I had not heard much about. So that kind of changes it. But I mentioned it earlier. Kirk Herbstreit commented on how Michigan holds the power. I will say holds the power. Not that they've made any decisions. For once this season, they hold the power to do something. And that is to keep OSU from reaching the playoff, not by beating them, which I guess would also be the case if they did that, but by not playing the game and claiming COVID cases. And stated that there has been talk of this happening around the country, most notably when Florida State was out on playing Clemson. Now, coaches, he claims, have been talking about this. And I think that's an interesting perspective because do we believe that that's happening?
I think that's just dirty.
Oh, 100%. It's unethical. But do you think it's happening?
I don't think it's going to happen. I think Michigan will play that game.
Do you think it's happened during the course of this season? For anyone, not necessarily for Michigan.
So you're talking about the Clemson-Florida State game?
Most notably.
No. I think no guy in their right mind, like even their rivals or whatever, like college football in general, like college football players, everybody wants to play. The coaches want to play. I don't think anybody's going to be like, let's not do this.
I would like to. I would like to agree with you.
I would love to think that's right.
Exactly.
I would love to think that's because that's what it's like. Like I know all of us would love to be playing this year.
Yep.
Like even if we got one game. And I think most of those guys would be like, oh yeah, just one. It's like 1 week. You said the Florida State, Clemson. Like I bet those guys would have loved to play Clemson. Just get your hat out.
Yeah. Because if you do beat Clemson,
you're the man.
Yeah.
You're the top dog all of a sudden. So it's an interesting perspective. And like you said, I'd love to think that none of that happens or it goes on. But in the back of my mind, I know that there is just some ways where some shape or form where that definitely could happen. But Michigan's home game this week against Maryland has already been canceled as of Wednesday, as I'm sure you guys know, due to a number of positive cases from Michigan. And Maryland had issues earlier on in the season. The Terps had some issues with some positive COVID cases popping up. But now Michigan stopped all in-person activities back on Monday, and it's not looking promising for next week, next week, correct? Next weekend against OSU, because they're actually not going to be back in the facility until at least Monday at the earliest. What do you think of that?
Well, it's one of those things where if you look at NFL teams, just speaking on my knowledge of the Browns have been out, Myles Garrett, got COVID or whatever.
Back now?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a few minutes.
Yeah, he's back. And so anyway, they had to do a lot of their practices on Zoom. The Raiders' whole defense was out, right?
The Ravens got 1 day of practice this week before they played the Steelers.
And they almost beat them.
I mean, I understand.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, I understand that NFL versus college, completely different. You're dealing with men versus,
very true,
boys.
Yeah.
And so can Michigan probably still play if they don't have a lot of practice time? Yeah. Will it probably make a difference? No. Either way, if they play Ohio State or not, they're going to get ran out of the stadium. When Ryan Day said we're going to put 100 on them?
Yep.
He might.
He might.
Like, oh my
man
gosh,
was not exaggerating.
I was more confident in Brady Hoke taking Devin Gardner down there to beat Ohio State than I am Jim Harbaugh taking whoever starts at Michigan.
Jeez.
Dylan McCaffrey, we miss you. We wish you would have stayed.
Hey, he's our guy. If he came back, he would have been their guy.
He would have been.
Probably.
He's a McCaffrey. He was definitely athletic.
Dude.
But we didn't want him.
To round out our college football talk for today, a little bit of MACtion. Not too much, just enough to keep you satisfied until next week. But I did want to touch on, you can't ignore this, the Buffalo running back, Jarrett Patterson, putting on a show. Buffalo now sits at 4-0 on top of the MAC East after a big-time win against Kent State, who, hey, our boy Jackson Pruitt, I cannot speak. Jackson Pruitt from earlier just picked up an offer from Kent State. Hopefully he was not watching that game because Jarrett Patterson.
Hey, Buffalo should have called him right then and be like, hey, you see that guy run for 8 touchdowns again? Come here.
Exactly. But coming off not only last week, let's talk about last week before we get into this week. Last week, 300-plus yard game 2 weeks ago, against a terrible Bowling Green team who was at the bottom of the MAC.
Yep.
He proved it was no fluke last week against Kent State, who was tied for the top spot in the MAC East. So this was like the game was Buffalo versus Kent State because they're both 3-0 at the time on top of the MAC East. He finished with 409 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns on 36 carries and was only 18 yards short of the NCAA single-game rushing record. They pulled him late in the game.
And they didn't know. The coach didn't know.
They didn't know. If you've got 400 yards, I'm just going to go out and assume that you're close to some freaking record.
The thing is, 36 carries, that means he is rushing for over 10 a carry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you want to hear how many fantasy
12,
points
probably.
he had?
Oh, Lord.
88.9.
Oh.
DraftKings.
Can you imagine if you just I might just start Buffalo. This guy today.
Dude, that is insane.
Crazy game.
And
I feel like every year we always get a game like that from at least one running back throughout the whole college football season.
Melvin Gordon had one of those when he was
Samaje
at Wisconsin.
Perine
from
Oklahoma.
Yep.
That was like back-to-back
That
weeks.
was back-to-back weeks.
Was it really?
Melvin broke it, and then
Perine broke it the next week.
I did not know. I don't remember that. Man, I didn't know it was that close together. But a few.
Because P-Rye holds it right now.
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago.
That was Melvin's senior
Oklahoma
year.
State?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
He played for Oklahoma.
Okay.
With
I think the current record is from someone from Oklahoma State.
Yep, him and Joe Mixon were his two.
I think the current record is from somebody at Oklahoma State, though. I could be wrong. It could be Oklahoma.
Oh, it could be Chuba. Did he Chuba
Chuba Hubbard.
Actually, look it up.
But anyways, as you do that, I wanted to say that a few news outlets have actually included him in the Heisman talk, which is laughable because he's from Buffalo or whatever.
Yeah.
But and we just talked about a non-Power 5 team. BYU is a very different situation being an independent. Like I said, it's outlandish, but the fact that he's even an afterthought coming out of a non-Power 5 conference is incredible, and he deserves it, right? 300-yard game, putting on a show against one of the best teams in the MAC. I'm going to definitely I follow MACtion to a certain degree. I'm definitely going to be following Jarrett Patterson as the rest of this season goes on. Drew, did you find anything?
It says FBS record held by former Oklahoma running back Samaje Perine.
There you go. Okay.
Yep.
So you're right.
2014. So
right on there.
I think
There you go,
Chuba
boys.
was pretty close though. Like he had like maybe
Especially
400.
career yards too.
Yeah.
He had to be pretty close up there. But
Yeah.
He's had a down year.
He had
unfortunately.
427 is what he had.
Damn.
Samaje Perine.
so he was that
5
close.
touchdowns.
So he was that close, man.
And
18
Matt,
yards.
if they,
That's him.
when they pull him like the fourth quarter, if they
Probably, yeah.
like 7 minutes left,
Yeah.
easily could have got it.
Oklahoma
Run that
beat-
man.
Oklahoma beat Kansas that day 44-7.
Kansas, bro. Stick to basketball. Holy cow. But anyways, that's going to wrap up our college football portion of the podcast. Now we're going to get into our second guest of the day, Nick Potenza, joining us from Wayne State. Let's cut right to that conversation and get a good conversation here with Nick. Joining us today on Division I Rejects is a dude who I got to play twice in my high school career while he was at Stoney Creek in Rochester. A middle linebacker that plays downhill and hits like a truck. Now at Wayne State University, it's Nick Potenza. What's going on, Nick?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Fantastic, man. Lions have made the biggest news of this year. Patricia's gone. It's a good day. We're rejoicing. How are you? Nick?
Oh yes, I'm good.
There he is. There he is. That's good to hear, man. Good to hear. I was reading a little bit on your bio on Wayne State's roster, and you had 3 interceptions your senior year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Holy shit! These quarterbacks. I mean, I feel like that's a really good number for a linebacker. I know you played middle linebacker, correct?
Yes, correct.
He's got some hands too. He's a versatile guy. I love that, man.
Throw him on the hands team.
I love that, dude. And I'm thinking back to the last year we managed to beat you guys in the playoffs where you guys, first of all, you had a hell of a squad. And I think we got away with that game. Like we always talk about in the playoffs, especially how you have to steal a game. And I think we kind of stole that one. You look at the time of possession in that game and you guys possessed it for, I want to say like 3/4 of the entire game. I'm assuming you feel the same way on that one.
Yeah, 100%.
Man, I mean, we'll talk about it here in a minute, a little bit more depth, but you guys had a super solid core of guys, a lot of which are only graduating this year, and they went undefeated in the regular season this year. So that program has definitely made a ton of strides since you've gotten into that program. I'm assuming, been a huge part of that. So what was it like to turn that program around a bit from when you came in to now where you're having all this success?
Yeah, so like you said, when I first got to Stoney Creek, honestly, it was pretty laughable. It was pretty embarrassing. I'm being brutally honest. It was pretty bad. But then once our new coach, Nick Merlo, got in, he focused on changing the culture, which everyone bought in. Everyone in the community bought in. And
Awesome.
like you said, last year we had a lot of success in our first playoff game in, 8-9 years.
Holy
and
cow,
then,
yeah.
Obviously this year, getting a playoff win, going undefeated. So
What's up?
it feels good to change something.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Nick. So this is Drew Carpenter here. I played at Oxford. So I wanted to talk about how you guys turned that program around. My junior year, so our junior year, I remember going into Stoney Creek, and first off, your student section is electric. I don't know how you guys are awesome. I've never been booed more by an opposing crowd, awesome. And that was before the game started. So just wanted to say that. But we went in there, and quite frankly, you weren't kidding. Like we thought Stoney Creek was like not a very good football team at all. And then that next year, when you're looking at your schedule, we're like, all right, who's our wins? We're like Stoney for Creek, sure, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like they're not good. You guys totally changed that culture, it seems like, because you come into our house and you beat us good. Then I went to the Stoney Lake Orion game, and I'm watching you guys compete. I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking at your guys' team going into this year, and I was like, watch out for Stoney. My brother was the quarterback for Oxford this year. I was like, Stoney's going to be a good team. And so how did it feel to, like, turn that culture around? Because we kind of had the same thing at Oxford, going from 2-7 to a playoff team.
Yeah, like, I don't know, just going throughout middle school, everyone in my grade and the grade below, it was just, like I said, it kind of just felt embarrassing, all this losing.
I bet.
So, I mean, once Coach Merlo brought in the idea of changing the culture and everything, everyone in my grade and the grade below, I don't know, really just bought into it. We all wanted to change. We didn't want to be considered that team that's always a guaranteed victory.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just felt good to have a chance.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that team. What do you think was the most important thing in getting all those guys to buy in, like you talked about, not only in your class, but the guys below you?
Well, especially in my grade, we had a lot of guys who actually cared about the season, weren't just there to have the name on the back of the jersey or get the varsity
It's always
letter.
good, yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely good. And then, honestly, going through, like I said, middle school, we all knew our senior year we would have a good squad. And once we got the coach we needed and good coaching staff, it all just built itself together, you know?
That's awesome, man. No, it's definitely a great story, and especially you're going to remember that for a long time, I'd assume. But now, going to Wayne State, like you guys are totally the opposite side of the spectrum, right? You had a great season last year, finished second in the GLIAC, some big wins against Grand Valley and Ashland. You get that second spot behind Ferris State, who is the powerhouse right now. What does it feel like now, coming off of that program, you turned it around, and now, like, you know, you've established that culture there, and hopefully that will last for years to come, you know, with your class and the class below you being those guys that really, really brought that and established it with that coach, like you said, Coach Merlo. What is the difference now? You're coming into an established culture in Detroit under Coach Winters, who's in his 17th year, so you got to know that culture has been here and it's been around.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to come into a winning program, come into a program who does things right, does things the way things should be done.
Yeah.
Obviously, every college team, even the ones that are playing, are going through setbacks right now.
Of course.
Just got to stay focused, know what you're practicing and get better for. And I don't know, it just feels to be good. Feels good to be part of something like that.
Hell yeah. I love that. And we had Myron Harris on, the running back from Chip Valley, who I'm assuming you know pretty well now. I hope. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Myron, awesome dude, but he was telling me about how he went through that recruiting process, and obviously he got looks from a ton of schools, and he, right off the bat, I mean, super talented, athletic kid, thought he was going to go play at least in like the MAC or something, he was telling me, but ended up at Wayne State, obviously, just because he said those guys really got to know him on a personal level and really did a great job of maintaining that relationship with him all the way throughout the recruiting process. And he said Wayne State was really the obvious choice for him. Would it be a pretty similar kind of situation for you, or is it any different than that?
Oh yeah, definitely. They definitely have a good family atmosphere up there.
Awesome.
Their saying is one warrior, and I definitely think they live by it.
Sweet.
So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about it or you can be about it. So I'm glad that they are on the latter of the two. Now, going off of that, you're playing with your brother again at Wayne. So was that a big draw to go play for the Warriors, I'd assume? And what has that been like? I know you don't have the experience like we were talking about before we got on the call about the season that did not happen, but what has that been like so far?
Oh, it's great. I only ended up playing with my brother for 1 year. It was
Yeah.
my senior year, our junior year. So I mean, it's always great to play with my brother. Definitely.
Of course, and he was a 4-year starter at Stoney Creek, correct?
Yeah.
Man, there you go. Two of the Potenza boys taking on Wayne. I love that. Were you on campus for the first semester at Wayne, I'd assume?
Yeah, it was.
What was the campus life like at Wayne? I mean, I'm not going to ask you to, give me a play-by-play of the Saturday nights or whatever, but like, what was the campus life like? And was it, I mean, at Northern, I know everything's like, there's not a whole lot to do. I guess I was just wondering, like, what was it like being on campus?
Yeah, like you said, it's not normal campus life that you would, experience normally. But I mean, it's fun to hang out with the guys when you got the free time. Obviously, do schoolwork.
Yeah.
Other than that, just mainly chilling out, getting ready for practice the next day, and hanging out with the guys in apartments and stuff.
Yeah. How much practice did you guys end up getting in?
We ended up doing so we lift about 2 days a week, and then we'd have an hour and a half of field time 4 days a week.
That sounds pretty good to me. Yeah, it's more than I got for sure. So that's solid. How has your mindset changed? I guess I know I was talking to someone the other day. It almost feels like, I don't want to say like I don't feel like a football player anymore, but I haven't played in over a year. Like I haven't really strapped with the pads and gone into a field and like played in a football game. Like has that affected your mindset at all, or just next day, next lift, next game, get after it?
Yeah, honestly, it really hasn't. If anything,
okay.
Obviously, it's not positive not to be playing
football, yeah.
But especially coming in as a freshman, you get that year of experience without actually having to experience it. So you kind of get a little taste of what college football is about. So I mean, I think it's all positive, but of course we'd rather be playing over the weekend. Yeah,
of course. Well, man, I appreciate it. It's been awesome. I got two more things for you here before we wrap it up. A couple game picks. Okay. Now the first of which we actually switched this one up. I know we were going to talk about Indiana and Wisconsin, but I don't know if you've seen earlier today. It was announced that Coastal Carolina is now hosting BYU and College Game Day is also going to be there. Did you see that earlier today?
No, it's not. Actually.
You did not? Well, there you go. I just broke the news to you then, I guess.
The news.
Anyways,
Woj bomb.
Coastal Carolina, number 14 in the country. BYU, number 8 in the country. 2 teams that are undefeated right now, right? But the argument is really that they haven't played, I guess, much competition to be considered in the college football playoff picture. I mean, I kind of just sprung this on you last minute here, but we don't really know much about it. Who would you take in this game if you were just gonna, maybe flip a coin?
I would have to go with BYU.
Yeah.
Obviously, I haven't followed those teams that often, but I've heard great things about the quarterback, BYU's quarterback.
Oh yeah, Zach Wilson.
I've heard pretty strong.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with BYU on that one.
There you go. Now flipping it onto the bless you there, boss.
Thanks.
Flipping it onto the NFL scene. Let's talk a little bit of Titans-Browns. Who do you think is coming out with that one? Titans obviously coming off a huge win against the Colts.
Ginormous win.
And resident Browns fan Drew here, I'm sure he's interested to see what you say.
Make the right choice.
Hey, make the right choice. You know the right choice.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to go with Titans.
Yep.
King Henry.
I'm a Rochester Adams fan now. I just want to let you know that.
Anyways, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Titans. Both strong running games.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like I'm just gonna be honest. I do not think they're gonna be able to stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they do find a way to stop him, I feel like Tannehill and AJ Brown have proved themselves to be able to win the game. So I'm gonna go with Titans.
I respect.
I'm with you, dude. AJ Henry is drawing comparisons to be like the Derrick Henry of the wide receiver.
AJ Henry.
Oh, sorry.
AJ
Brown,
Brown,
sorry.
Put some respect.
It is pretty much
Derrick
AJ Henry because he runs like Derrick Henry when he gets the ball. Boom.
Like a man.
There you go. But thank you, Nick. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, man. I'll see ya.
You guys take care.
That's a great talk by Nick.
Great talking with Nick Potenza. Pretty good dude.
Yeah.
Pretty good dude. Grounded dude. We talked about his success at Stoney and how he really turned that program around. He was a really instrumental part.
Oh, for sure. Stoney was definitely. I mean,
he said it. They were laughable. It was embarrassing,
yeah.
and they were. They were bad.
always like like I said, one of those teams where you're like,
Yep.
W.
Yeah.
Every year.
Undefeated this year in the regular season. Lose to Romeo in the playoffs. Solid Romeo team, and that was considered an upset.
Yeah,
an upset for them. So, playing those guys. They had a really good team. They had a solid squad. Even though I had 180 yards in the first half against them, they had a pretty good team.
Yeah, we get it, Kobe.
Anyways, let's move into some NFL talk. I think
this scored a touchdown that game too. Don't care.
All
right, NFL.
I actually had 3, but we'll go into some NFL here. And Northern Recruiter was there, so it was a good night. Anyways, NFL talk.
Who is this guy?
NFL talk. You ready for some NFL talk? Not nearly, but NFL. We talked about it. This has been a talk of the week, and it's funny because at the beginning you said it was the best news for the Lions all year. One problem addressed with the what do they call it? They've been relieved of their duties. Is that what they said? To which I quoted the tweet and said,
Twitter post.
I'm also relieved by this post. So it's a win for both.
Two different types of relief.
Exactly. 2 different types of relief. But this is one problem addressed for the Lions, getting rid of Patricia and Quinn. I think there's many more to come. Let's enjoy this brief feeling of accomplishment for the Lions. I still don't love Sheila Ford Hemp, correct? And maybe the direction of this program, or this franchise, I should say.
No, that was a step in the right direction.
I think it was.
I do. 100%. That's obvious. I'm just saying. I still don't love where we're at.
If Martha was still there, I think she would have let Patricia stay the rest of the year.
I actually agree. I agree.
I honestly think
so complacent.
They're like, we can't fight.
By the way, she passed, correct? So
she did.
Oh, didn't she?
She didn't.
Oh, she did not.
No, she didn't.
I'm wrong.
I didn't think so.
I thought she passed.
No.
Never mind.
I kind of think
Not
they
yet.
were thinking, well, he might be traveling to go, eat dinner on Friday with his family. Let's not fire him on Thanksgiving while he's eating. We'll wait till the next day. Then we'll get him.
But anyways, that news was long overdue. I love that we're cleaning house. The Patricia news.
She's alive and well.
She's alive and well. That's
95 years
good.
old.
I don't know why I thought that. I apologize to Martha there. But Patricia news was long overdue. Everyone saw that coming. I think Bob Quinn was a little bit of it was definitely the good move. I was a little surprised.
Me too, because I liked the guys he brought in, like TJ Hawkinson. I started, he is leading the NFL in tight end votes right now.
88,000 as of earlier today.
Today. I love TJ. A lot of people criticize the pick.
And NFC.
NFC.
I was gonna say,
yeah, sorry. No, Travis Kelce is leading tight ends. He's like number 5 in the league.
Anyway, I loved. Everybody disrespects how he drafted. that draft when we took TJ over at 7, I liked Bob Quinn, and I thought he was doing a good job. He whiffed on a couple, like
a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, he's had his moments. He's had his
Lakin
games.
Tomlinson, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You talk about it. I'm gonna look up the Lions last 5 first-round picks.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we've had TJ. Okuda's still getting into it. He got hurt. He didn't play on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So
Swift.
I think that was a big whiff.
Swift.
Okay.
Sorry.
Swift as well. That was a good
concussion
pick.
though.
So do you know when Bob Quinn got there?
I want to say 2016.
Okay, so Taylor Decker, if that's the case.
Yep, I actually do want to say that's his first draft.
Okay, Gerard Davis.
I think it's Jared.
Same thing. Frank Ragnow.
Yep, I know his draft, and then TJ, and then Okuda. I love that. I love those first round picks.
Not bad.
But
Jared is underrated. Yes,
but still,
I don't like Taylor Decker. Actually, I take that back. I think he's overrated as heck.
And I don't think it was necessarily the first round draft pick misses. I think it was more in the second and third round. You know, where you
when
had
he reached
guys,
for Tavi.
That's very true.
Reached for that.
That's true.
Tavi, yeah. Obviously Swift was a steal, and I think Kansas City's looking at man, we should have picked Swift over. I mean, Clyde's gonna be good.
He's also healthy. Clyde's also healthy. So
Swift's sweet.
Swift's sweet.
And I remember at the beginning of the season, people were like, "Why?" Now we're using them, which is good.
Drop the ball.
Yeah. Now we're gonna let this 40-year-old come in and start over our 2 backs with Carryon and Swift. We're gonna put AP out there.
I like both of those guys.
Oh, he's great player. I thought they were bringing him in immediately as a mentor role, but apparently not. Now this is a stat that I wish I would have got your reaction on this right before we started this segment. Matt Patricia did not beat the Bears or the Vikings in his time with Detroit.
I understand.
What the hell?
I understand the Vikings. The Vikings have been very consistent. I think they're going to I think they're going to make a playoff push right here.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
The
Bears are going to tank. I think
that's the thing. That's what I don't get. Mitch Trubisky is what? 5-0 against the Lions?
By the way, they are keeping him in this weekend against the Lions, so pretty good news for us.
Oh,
great news. You say that, and every time he goes off against the Lions.
Honestly,
every time. I swear he has thrown 3 touchdowns every single time we play him.
I'm being serious. I don't. He gets unnecessary hate. He's not that good. Don't get me wrong, but I get it when you take him.
Who the is this guy?
When you take him over Mahomes and you take him over Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, I get it. But
I gotta bleep that.
Yeah, bleep that.
I will.
When you take, I just don't think he's that bad. I just don't think he's that bad.
Okay, what you got to think about is once again.
I watched the Packers game, and they're a good defense, and he was making
the
plays.
thing about
Packers defense.
They drafted him 2nd overall.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because you look at who was behind him.
What I'm saying. That's the reason why.
That's the reason why. I agree. He's had his moments. He's notoriously bad.
When you're a 2nd overall pick,
you have to live up to it.
In 3 years, especially today in today's NFL, you have to.
Oh yeah,
I get it.
Let's get back to the coaching conversation though. Robert, is it Saleh?
Salah.
Robert Saleh. There we go. Thank you.
It's a no-brainer. It's not.
Anyways, he's reading off my script here says, is Robert Saleh the answer for Detroit? I think the obvious answer is yes, with his ties to Detroit, and he even came out and said either today or yesterday that Detroit, or the city specifically, means a lot to him still. So, dude, that's come on.
And
but then you have to look at, does he have any interest? Which then that kind of answers that question, right? Because he came out and said it. Richard Sherman came out.
Went to Northern.
He's got Northern ties too, which is, I was going to talk about that in a second, but yeah, that's a huge deal too. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Your thunder.
It's a great point.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's a great point. But Richard Sherman seems to think he's the man. Publicly endorsed him. Came out and talked to, I forget what who he was talking to.
It was on Chris Collinsworth, PFF,
was
which is Pro Football Focuses. I think it was on that.
Okay.
Anyway, he came out and said basically this guy's the dude. The way that he handles his personnel and his business, the way that he treats his guys and puts them. He made a big emphasis to talk about how he puts them in the best position to win possible. And that's, as a coach, I guess all you can do, right? Because you're not out there strapping out the pads. So that's all you can do is put them in the best position possible. And, I guess this really is a no-brainer for Detroit, isn't it?
I think so. And here's the thing, too. I saw this. I forget who said it. It was a Detroit news guy who said it. Guess who's the quarterback coach right now for the San Francisco 49ers?
No clue.
Matt
no idea.
LaFleur's brother.
Really?
So they said there are potential rumors that if Saleh did get the job, would take LaFleur and make him the OC for the Lions.
Interesting.
And I understand.
I've not heard that before.
And I saw it really recently. I think it was earlier this morning, actually. And what I really think is interesting about that is obviously the quarterback play from Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins and I think it was C.J. Beathard.
Whoever
was also
else.
in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hasn't been the greatest, but
They win.
I do like the creativity and the winning,
They
culture.
do win. They do win a lot.
Exactly.
At
And
least last year, too.
beat the
Especially.
Rams.
And look at Robert Saleh.
And this year, yeah, it was big.
Lost Joey Bosa. No,
Solomon
it's Nick
Thomas.
Bosa. Nick Bosa.
Nick Bull.
Solomon Thomas. Then they got rid of DeForest Buckner,
Yep.
who's on the Colts now.
And that was, I mean, not to get too sidetracked, but he was out this past
Yeah.
week again for the Titans. Huge reason why
Oh,
Derrick Henry ran
for sure.
all over them. If you're stout, the inside of that defensive line is not stout.
He is their best player on defense.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And if
A
people,
Darius Leonard.
the local media were calling out like, Darius Leonard's great too, but the local media were calling out how like, oh, we don't have depth at the defensive line position. It doesn't matter if you don't have depth, if you don't have a dude that you can put up there and stop King Henry. But I don't mean to get
No, you're
too off
completely
topic.
right, though. But that's the thing. The plug-and-play guys, because you think about it, the 49ers lost so many guys, and Robert Saleh had them ready against a Rams team who's coming off their biggest win of the year for sure against Tom Brady. And they go in and beat them. And I thought there was no way the 49ers even had a chance to beat. And they won.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, putting guys in a position where they're going to be successful. And that's one thing that we, as a franchise, have not done as of late. I already said I was kind of still, I was still, not 100% bought into Sheila Ford Hemp. And I specifically do not like when she's talking to media because she seems pretty disinterested. She was at practice the other day, which I guess is probably more of a photo op than anything.
Yep, I would think so too.
But either way, it's good that she's there. But the storyline as of late has been surrounding Matthew Stafford, our quarterback, our guy. As we approach the potential rebuild for our franchise, what are the thoughts looking forward for our franchise quarterback?
So these next 5 games I think are huge.
Yeah.
I think Stafford has to prove in these next 5 games that he can still play, which he has this year. Like he's taken a step back, yes. But if he proves that he can still play, that he's still healthy, that he's still young, well, not young, but that he can still do
young
the
enough
thing.
where he's got years on his career where he's not, this isn't like the end for him.
Yes. And do I think he signs another contract with Detroit? No. But he has 2 years left, and I feel like this may be the draft. We draft someone in the second round.
I can see that too.
If there's a steal out there that we think we can build a team with this guy, keep him under Stafford for 2 years. Like, nothing's wrong with, like, what they did with Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith in Kansas City 2 years ago. Like, that year under...
They were also winning.
They were also winning.
That's,
Very true. Very true. Very true.
Like, Alex Smith had them in the divisional round a couple times.
Yeah, and then, that year, that was a year they lost to Tennessee in the first year, in the first game.
Yep.
But
So,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I would think it's the best either this year or next year. I think, like I said, Stafford's not signing another contract with Detroit.
I have to agree with you. I'm the biggest advocate for Stafford too, and I think, if for some reason he's gone from the Lions after this year and they really go into a rebuild, which
I
would
hope
just
he go win somewhere.
So
that's what I'm saying.
He's
going to go somewhere, and I think he's going to be the guy. A lot of people have been talking about the Steelers, actually, which I think is hilarious because it would be awesome. But how do they move on?
They couldn't.
How could they move on from Big Ben?
I heard
depending on how this season pans out, we still got some more season.
I think Big Ben's done after this year.
I heard Sam Darnold. They want to go get Sam Darnold, who's got a connection with Juju.
I don't
anyway,
know about that.
What I was going to say about Matt Stafford, and you said the last 5 games, it's not. I don't feel like it's a prove it. I feel like it's a farewell. I feel like right now you're looking at.
Don't do that. I just like when Kelvin Johnson said he retired after the Chicago game. When I saw him catch his last touchdown, I was like, "That's really the last game I'm going to see." Watching Kelvin Johnson.
But the difference is this: I think right now, I forget who is it. Sheila is making the GM decisions right now when Quinn's out.
I would assume
Whoever's doing it.
Yeah.
They're looking at potential suitors for next year. They're looking at quarterbacks.
I feel like it's your duty, though, as part of the ownership
as
of a franchise.
Older quarterback.
You have to do that either way. Whether you are an advocate for Stafford or not, you have to do that because of your position and what that entails.
And there was rumors of them drafting Tua this year and Herbert.
Yeah.
Like
there was rumors about that.
Not even rumors. I think those were probably pretty factually based.
Interviewed with the Lions.
Yeah,
interviewed
exactly.
with the Lions.
Exactly.
Just because I think it was, like I heard it was pity just because like he's considered a top 3 pick and we had the 3 pick. But I think there
was more to it than that.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
I really think that you look at teams like, the Washington football team. If Stafford was on that team, no credit, nothing against Alex Smith. Stafford's better than Alex Smith.
Yeah.
You put him on that team, you're like, whoa, Phillip Rivers might be done after this year. You put Stafford on the Colts.
That'd be a
I think
great
Jacoby's
place.
going to step back in, actually. Jacoby.
I think
he'll step back in
10 times better than Jacoby Brissett.
I do, but that I'm just saying.
And I think
Yeah.
the Colts. I think the Colts.
And imagine for him.
You're just saying if Stafford.
No, for sure.
But for Jacoby, that would have sucked because he, was the guy before that just for a very short.
For a year,
he was
exactly.
because Andrew Luck
Exactly, but I'm saying he thought
Andrew Luck, they didn't have the free.
That's what I'm saying.
He was
They
never
thought
the guy.
they thought that him. I'm assuming what was going through his mind is like, okay, Luck's gone. I get to be the guy for, and then here comes out of nowhere, and he's got to go sit on the bench. Like that would suck.
He's been coming
scored
in for
2 touchdowns.
Wildcat.
He did, yeah. He
He's
ran. He's been running though.
Yeah,
he hasn't
who knows
done
who's
too much.
fast.
Yeah.
Doing what the Eagles
Taysom
said they were
Hill.
going to do with Jalen Hurts, and they decided not to do that.
That Taysom Hill role, those backup quarterbacks are starting to get used so much more in the NFL.
Very interesting conversation point. But before we will talk about that
Jalen Hurts?
that Eagles game and Hurts a little bit later on. But I want to talk first.
Well, let's get to the GOAT.
The Wednesday afternoon game was a first, right? Maybe we'll be seeing a couple more of those. Hopefully not, because this is kind of awkward.
I loved it.
You loved it?
I did.
I don't know if I
You
loved
imagine?
it.
I loved it at 3:00.
Yeah,
it was
can you
like I was
imagine?
working out. And I was like, "There's a football game."
Could you imagine coming
true.
home from school? on
That's
Wednesday?
actually true.
Like
That
if
would
we
be
were in real life,
sweet.
and it's
Yeah.
like Wednesday, you're like, oh,
Get
I
home
can do
from
some
class,
homework,
yeah.
or I can watch football.
That's
right
true.
now.
Actually, that's a good perspective. But a sloppy divisional win for Pittsburgh, who moves on to 11-0, correct?
Liking what I'm seeing.
At home over the lackluster Ravens, without Lamar Jackson, without key pieces on defense, without
Their 2 top running backs.
exactly J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
So I thought we were going to see. First of all, I thought we were going to
I
see
thought there
more
were
of
3
Gus
top tight ends.
Edwards.
So did I. But we
That's
saw
true too,
Justice
Nick
Hill.
Boyle
and that
and
came
Mark
in.
Andrews.
That came into play
Yes.
before halftime too. But let's talk about the start of the game before we get too ahead of ourselves. It started with a lot of turnovers, right? RG3 was as rusty as we've seen him
Gosh,
in this
pulling a
game.
hammy. Looked like
Yeah,
he was
that just
45.
you're just not quite game ready. Even though
They
they only
only got
had one
one
practice. I knew you were about to say that, so yes, I understand that.
Didn't stop.
And even though he had his big moments like that big run before halftime that set up that potential scoring
touchdown.
opportunity for Baltimore, he just looked extremely uncomfortable in the pocket, and rightfully so. He's got a lack of experience in this system, not a lack of experience in the NFL per se, but a lack of experience in the Baltimore system,
Say
being
lack
the
of
guy.
experience in the NFL too. He's been a starter for only.
he was a starter
2
for
years.
the Browns.
But
for
he
a year.
has been around for at least 7 or 8 years, so he's
Constantly
got
getting hurt.
exactly. But he's got experience in the league at least. But you're also playing the best defense in football in Pittsburgh. That can't be argued.
Didn't
I think.
stop someone else.
Very true. Let's talk about the guy who now has the highest passer rating in the NFL among
Throwing on
quarterbacks with at
dimes.
least 6 attempts. Is he the GOAT? I know he is Trace McSorley.
Honestly, I thought it was awesome. Like TikTok, I knew TikTok was gonna blow up. And for the next 5 minutes, I'm like showing my mom. I'm like, look, this is gonna. It's just Trace McSorley throwing on a dime, throwing on a dime.
Yeah, like the little
You know,
meme or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
And I
that
like
was-
how it wasn't even a good pass. It's just Brown made one guy miss. And
yeah.
then just
It was
ran
kind of
to the
a,
end
it was a
zone.
good throw. It wasn't a great throw.
No, it wasn't one of those like, wow, Mahomes is awesome.
And then not only that, but then Hollywood Brown's running on the sideline, and he made Minka Fitzpatrick. I just combined his names. He made Minka Fitzpatrick look like he was in a spin
like
cycle
Earl
there.
Thomas
He
versus,
did versus Henry.
yeah.
yeah, and he just spun around, and all of a sudden that was a legit play.
yeah.
Like that was dope.
I
It
really-
kind of reminded me of the Minnesota Miracle a bit.
Yes.
it's kind of funny.
I was just gonna.
Yeah,
I really hope though that the Ravens don't figure out how to use Hollywood Brown because I just don't know
dude,
why.
he tweeted earlier, like not
Yeah,
to,
he's
you know,
like-
yeah.
That's why I was going.
Okay,
at.
yeah, go
He's
ahead.
like, you don't know how to use me, pretty much. And I'm looking at his stats.
I think his words were, "Why you gonna have all these shooters if you ain't gonna use them?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
something
something
like
that. And
Nice
so,
accent.
but like being an Oklahoma fan, with Baker and everything like that, I'm watching Hollywood Brown when he was with him, and then with Kyler, I'm like, this guy's a stud.
He's little though.
But look at Tyreek Hill,
Tyreek
which
Hill.
we'll get to in a sec. But like, how do the Ravens not know how to use him?
Yeah,
Like,
They
good
don't
point.
know. They're a running team. They don't know how to use any. Of the
It's
receivers.
kinda
I know,
true.
but it's
That's
just
kinda
it's
true.
just like I felt like that was a huge thing. Like remember last year, their first game, Lamar was throwing him deep balls, and their offense looked good
Versus
Against
Miami. Yep.
yeah. And I feel like he hasn't. And I
haven't done that since
like, he
yeah.
has such a potential, and they were hyping him up this year. Remember, he's like, he's gained 20 pounds of muscle. He looks so big now, and he hasn't done anything because of their offense.
That's a good point.
just
Another
their
guy who
system.
has not done anything. Let's get, you see this. You don't have the notes in front of you, or else you'd be smiling. But the Steelers, they had a drop pass on almost every drive, it seemed like. A lot of it coming from Deontay Johnson on the outside. But the biggest mistakes were from who has been called dropped in his prime. His name is Eric Ebron. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Are you familiar?
I hate that guy. I hate that guy.
Have you seen the guy
He
on
had
Twitter?
so many drops. He had like 4 drops that game.
And I'm
constantly
sitting there
calling out
watching the
Detroit.
game. I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm like, you know what? It's a good thing some things don't change. Some things
2020
don't
so
change.
kept
How is he
constant.
still? I mean, when he
Getting
gets the ball in
paid.
his
He
hands,
led the league in touchdowns like 2 years ago.
It's ridiculous.
I know.
He's gifted. He's physically gifted, but he just cannot catch passes to save his life. And he has Twitter fingers against every Detroit sports person ever.
He loves and hates Detroit at the same. He loves to hate Detroit.
That's it. That's
the
it.
only attention he gets.
It's
Literally.
very,
Whenever
very
he drops
weird
a pass,
dynamic.
you know Detroit Twitter's blowing.
Loving it. They're absolutely loving
So
it because of
funny.
the spite against him. But
I one time DM'd him on
Shut up.
I commented on it. I'll show you guys in a bit. But I commented on Instagram and they were like, wow, look at the 2013 class. So many studs. And I comment at Detroit Lions, at Eric Ebron. Way to go. We could have had the following. Odell.
yeah, whatever was that?
Donald,
Yeah, instead
whatever,
of him.
right? And I was like, thanks a lot. And he comments back, you're welcome.
He replied.
And
I remember that. Wait, I remember that.
I was 13, maybe 14 years old, and he's coming back at me.
Dude, that is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
I hate that man. Like,
I don't like him. I really just
I hate
cannot
him.
stand him.
So bad.
he's a playmaker when the ball's in his hands, but he can't catch the ball.
He can't get the ball in his hands. He can't keep it in his hands. But another big loss for Pittsburgh, besides dropping those balls, even the red zone too, where tight ends are most prominent, especially in this league.
Yeah.
Losing star defensive end on the opposite side of the line from TJ Watt, Bud Dupree goes down, and I'm pretty sure it was confirmed today that it's
Confirmed
most
ACL
likely
tear. Yep.
it's an
I saw
ACL.
that.
Huge.
What a stupid ligament.
Devin
It is
Bush,
the worst.
too.
You never
Devin
see-
Bush was another big loss for the Steelers.
Oh, the Steelers would be so
What
good if
a
Devin Bush was
dumb,
healthy.
stupid,
I'm telling
good
you.
for nothing ligament.
I'm watching that game yesterday, and he gets hurt. I'm like, the Steelers might not,
Pull it
Make a
off or
run.
what? Yeah.
TJ Watt is the best.
TJ Watt
defensive
is-
player in the
he's-
league.
No,
So
Deep boy.
right
the
now,
best defensive player in the league is coming back this week against the Titans.
Oh, Jesus, give me a break. I disagree.
All right.
TJ Watt will win it this
He's
year.
top three.
Yeah.
It's down. It's
I
Donald,
agree he's top
TJ,
three. Yeah.
And Miles.
I'll
I
agree with
think
that. I'll agree with that.
Watt will win it this year, but I'll agree. He's the best this year? I'm not saying the best in the league.
Okay.
Like
All right.
overall,
No,
it's
that makes
Donald.
sense.
This year,
easily.
this
But,
year, yeah.
yeah.
I'm with you.
We'll get into
I'll agree
Browns-
with the top
we'll get
three,
into
though.
Browns talk.
But let's see. Does this game, along with the Broncos incident last week, and you wanted to talk about that, we made a note about that, their quarterback situation with Hinton coming in, highlight the need for a bubble for the NFL, the playoffs, so we get to see the best version of each team with all of its key players. But I wrote this earlier today, and then actually it broke like later on today that Roger Goodell had talked about this
He
exact
did.
issue,
He did yesterday.
and he said a bubble is simply not going to be an option for them. He does not like
It's
the idea of
impossible.
it.
It's impossible.
It's much more difficult than like an NBA situation, for
Yeah.
sure.
Because it's a court, like
That's true.
guys go play at Basketball America all the time. You got to set up a whole football field, and it just takes time. There's, weather depending.
And just much more bodies and personnel, I think,
Yeah.
is the
I would
number
say,
one issue.
yeah, they could figure out the field. It's just the bodies.
Yeah. And it's just
There's
a lot of
so many
money.
There's
too,
maybe
man.
like, if you really need it, you could have 30 guys. I bet 30 guys went into the bubble for like the Lakers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
30, like
Not
15
100 or what is it,
15
like
players.
60,
They're-
yeah.
You're using 30 guys on one play. I mean,
True.
22,
Exactly.
but with the
The
refs,
coaches,
and
Yeah.
the rest, everything.
Yeah. I mean, what did you think about, I guess we'll kind of go off the script a little bit here. What did you think about the difference between them choosing to postpone the game, the league chose to postpone
Versus
the
the
Ravens
Broncos?
game versus the Broncos?
I thought it was honestly kind of BS. Like I really
Yeah.
did. I felt like they were trying to let the Ravens, let's let them
Recuperate.
get to full health.
big
so they got a
divisional
chance.
game, and yeah, against the
And,
Steelers,
where the Broncos have no shot against the Saints,
and like whatever.
and like
yeah.
who cares, right? Like they're not a good team anyway. And it's like I thought it was like kind of like stupid. I just
Yeah.
really did.
And I would like to think it was just because it was an isolated incident in that quarterback room that maybe that had something to do
And
with it.
what-
Maybe it did, but
what was the difference between playing Wednesday and Tuesday?
yeah, that's another good
Like,
point.
that's
I think
one day.
probably a COVID test pops in the morning, but they were very convinced. I will say the league was very convinced that that was an isolated case
Okay.
on like the Monday or Tuesday or whenever
Yeah.
that happened.
For
so then,
Driscoll, for the Broncos?
not for the Broncos, for the
Okay.
Ravens.
Okay.
So that's why they were confident to move on with that game heading into Wednesday because they knew with the contact tracing and their department that works on that was going to be an isolated incident. But game of the week, we talked about it with both of our guests this week. Titans and Browns. They were split. Our guests were split on the game. So I think that's better
I
than
like
you were
that.
expecting
I
coming
like
in.
that.
But tell me, I'm not going to ask you who you think's going to win. I'm going to ask you to tell me why you think the Browns are going to win.
Okay, so the only way the Browns are going to be able to win is if
Okay.
they can go at Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry, he's going to have his performance. If the Browns can keep him close to 100, not pop in the 120, then I feel like that was a good performance by them. Browns got a really good run defense, but where they struggle is in the pass defense.
Okay.
And Myles Garrett was out this past week versus the Jaguars, and it showed. But against the Eagles, which they have a bad offensive line, so I understand that, Olivier Vernon was AFC Player of the Week because he had 2 sacks. And so I feel like if they can get at Ryan Tannehill, disrupt that offense, because, both teams like to play action, so they have to get a...
That's very true, because their run game sets them up in that position to do so.
And so that's what they need to do on defense, plus Myles coming back is going to be great. On offense, they have to play action. Being the biggest Baker guy probably, here in the state of Michigan, I would assume. Baker's been
ever.
It might be.
Ever since the crotch grab.
No. Flag plant.
Oh, gosh.
Baker's been money on play action this year.
Yes.
Where he struggled.
That's his game.
Is been sometimes when he's
Baker
in the
money?
drop back.
Yeah, okay.
No, whatever. But the Browns are really good in play action, and they're going to need to do that.
Yep.
The Titans to win this game, they need to make the Browns do drop back passing.
Yeah.
The only time the Browns have
Uncomfortable.
been successful really was against the Colts in the first half. Baker had a really good game, and then against the Bengals when Odell went out and they had to win from behind. So I feel like if they can stop the drop back passing or make them go to drop back passing, they got a chance. And then,
I'll agree.
Take advantage of the depleting Browns backfield. Denzel Ward might not be playing, and the Browns safety just went out as well, Ronnie Harrison, who's out for 4 to 6 weeks. If Tannehill can take advantage of that, Titans will win the game. Obviously, I hope he doesn't, but that's how they'll win.
Who capitalizes, who makes the other team more uncomfortable,
It's gonna be a physical
and
game.
plays their game. 2 teams with a predominantly strong run offense and attack with their guys healthy, hopefully, heading into that week. Hunter, what are you going to say?
So I think the key to the game is whoever can run the ball will win that game.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Whoever can't run the ball and has to pass, like Ryan Tannehill, he's comeback player of the year last year, but he's not comfortable doing drop back action. He'd rather do play action as well.
Could be a prove it game.
Could be a prove it game.
That's very true, actually. Baker on the same kind of level as that. Yeah.
Both teams need this game because obviously the Titans are tied with the Colts, or they split with the Colts. So if the Colts win, the Colts have a tiebreaker, I'm pretty sure. And the Browns just needed to, everyone's saying with the Steelers haven't beat anybody, they beat the overrated Browns.
There's a lot riding on this for sure.
If the Browns win this game, you can no longer say the overrated Browns because they went into their stadium and beat them. You could say the Browns, maybe it was a fluke game, but they beat the Colts and they beat the Titans too if they win this game, and it will set up for a huge Monday night game, Ravens-Browns the following week.
It'd be huge. So I guess going off of that, to wrap up not only our NFL talk here, but Division I Rejects this episode, we're going to talk about some of the more dominant NFL performances. And these 3 guys that I want to talk about right here, I'm sorry, I had 3 guys down earlier because Travis Kelce, but I kind of, he had a good game, but these other guys we're going to talk about had much better games, much better performances. But these 2 guys, Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf. Tyreek Hill was in the lead. All of a sudden, Metcalf comes out and has one of the best games of his young career against.
Best game of his career.
The best game?
I would say.
Yes.
I'd probably agree with you, especially going against Slay. So that was
he made Slay look like a little boy.
He did make Slay look, but that's what he's been doing to guys.
He dropped that 1 touchdown
on
pass,
all season.
That was it.
All season he's been doing that. Before we get into him, though, I want to talk about Tyreek Hill, who had probably one of the best stat lines for a wide receiver in NFL history.
This one hurts because I traded him in my fantasy team for Aaron.
This one hurts for
Let's get the stat line before, so you can really understand the weight of that statement from Mr. Chambers over there. 13 catches, 269 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That is absolutely ridiculous. I want
highest
math.
Receiving yards.
Let's get well, go ahead. What was it?
Highest receiving yards since Calvin Johnson.
Really?
Is that so?
Is that so?
I did not know that.
Calvin versus the Bengals?
Calvin versus the Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
Guess what?
He had 329.
That's almost 21 yards a catch. A little quick math.
Well,
thank you for that.
The thing is,
wow. Courtesy of my calculator.
He had that 80-yard touchdown. He had 2 80-yard touchdowns.
He was blowing by people. He's like 205 pounds too. He's like
thick.
He's like, yeah. I mean,
he's a shorter, thicker guy.
He is.
He's quick.
What is you don't see that from? I don't know. I think that's very interesting.
And I want to be like, just like I said, for DBs everywhere, you just look at him and you're like, bro, how do we stop
what do you
this
do?
guy?
Yeah, what do you do?
Like,
it's ridiculous. And the
going,
Chiefs looked dominant at times. Like they looked like they could just turn it on and throw up 28 points out of nowhere.
I'm surprised that game was so close.
Exactly.
The defense coordinator is Todd Bowles, former Jets D coordinator or head coach
For the Bucks?
Yeah, he was the Bucs D corner. And you got to give him credit. He made halftime adjustments. And you know what I thought was really funny? And I was kind of hoping that it happened, where Tyreek Hill goes like, we got backup on the way.
Sharp.
We got
Shannon
backup on the way.
Sharp.
Yeah. And then the Bucs came back, and I was like, bro, if Tom Brady wins this game, I swear.
That would be funny.
Because that would have been the biggest meme ever.
Hilarious. Because that was, that was
be like a Nate
hilarious. The
Robinson
Bills
challenge.
versus the Patriots back then. That would be almost as big as Nate Robinson going to sleep.
Yeah.
But like I said, the Chiefs only win by 3 against the Bucs. Not only that, they don't cover for the 3.5 spread. So a lot of frustrated fans and bettors across the country. But
don't talk about the Eagles game then.
unreal.
Oh, yeah.
Unreal stats. Let's talk about that too. DK Metcalf, 10 catches, 177 yards. You said it. Best game of his young career. The Seahawks struggled to overcome the Eagles. And right now, Seahawks obviously at the top of their division and poised to be one of the teams between them, Green Bay, New Orleans to come out of the NFC.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And they really struggled to, overcome Philadelphia.
Eagles have played tough against some teams. Though.
They really
played
have.
tough.
Their
but
defense has.
Yes.
Their offense is.
Yeah.
It's Carson Wentz just turned the
Oh, I
ball
did want
over.
to say, too, I forgot to mention it. Devin White, right? That linebacker from the
Yes.
Bucs. Solid game. He was a big reason
for
that
sure.
they were back in that. But anyways, back to the Eagles.
Levante David, too.
Yeah, but you said it
One of the better
earlier,
linebackers.
and I hinted at it, but the Eagles need to figure out what to do with Jalen Hurts if they want to ride this guy out. They're running this weird, I don't even know this,
You draft
quarterback
a guy
carousel.
in the second round. You draft a guy in the second round. Like there's the old saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. So you
That's
just got to
a good-
pick a guy. You draft him in the second round.
just
Carson Wentz,
don't-
get him out of here. He turns the ball over too much. Give Jalen Hurts the all offseason to be like, you're the guy.
Yeah.
Give him it. Get him ready. Go in next season.
Yeah.
I
So if you're going to
personally-
ride with Carson Wentz, do it now and then get ready.
Which we can't say that because the Eagles are still in the race for the NFC.
I know.
Which
I
they-
know.
so
The
that's what
Giants
I'm
are in the
trying
lead
to-
right
they're
now,
in,
but
yeah.
But they're out.
They're in, but they're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, so I'm going to ask you after I say how I feel about it. Two quarterback system, I don't like it. I don't like watching Taysom Hill. Drew Brees could be 5 of 5, and he just got a huge drive, and Sean's like, all right, Drew, get out. Taysom's going to run the ball here. I just feel like as
No,
a former
I don't agree
quarterback, I'm just like, bro, I got so much momentum. Why are you taking me out? And let's say
A
Carson.
lot of it's like rhythm and just getting
exactly.
used to that game speed and all that stuff. It's
let's
huge.
say Carson Wentz. This probably won't happen, but he's balling, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, Jalen,
balling.
go run a wildcat."
But they brought Jalen into the game. He makes I forgot what he did on first down. Second down comes in, 7-yard completion out to the outside. I'm like, okay, here we go, Jalen. One more play. Oh, Carson, you're in. What?
exactly.
Doug Peterson? What are you?
And
What?
I
I
gave
don't-
Doug Peterson credit for being a creative offensive mind last week.
Yeah, he did.
And you know
Bit
what?
in the ass.
Northwestern and Doug Peterson, I will never root for you guys again because I came on this podcast saying you guys were going to have a day. And you both
Proved you
sucked.
wrong. That's for
Bad.
sure. But man, we got 2 more guys here. We want to talk about 2 running backs actually. David Montgomery from the Bears, 11 carries, 103 yards. Not only that, 5 catches for 40 yards. You guys know that? He was a pretty good threat out of the backfield as well. That's why I wanted to include him in this list because he was a big reason why the Bears were even in that game against Green Bay
But
in
were
the
they
first
in that
place.
game? Were they in that game?
Were they? Probably not. But when you look at the score at certain points in the game, you could argue for it. You know what I mean?
The Bears.
Especially going into it, you knew that was going to be the result. With Trubisky, we've talked about him at length already. Between him and Foles and 2 quarterbacks, no quarterback, that it's just not worked out for the Bears. You start 5-0.
Yeah.
You have quite literally made a screeching halt and crashed.
And I feel like the one thing we're all going to, Mr. Trubisky sucks. Like we all said. The Bears' defense looked horrible.
That's a great point.
And they
That was
were
supposed
a
to be,
top
yeah.
defense 2 years ago.
Good point.
Khalil Mack, where have you been all year?
One of the biggest pickups for that franchise.
I had not thought about that.
Khalil Mack
One of the
Mack has had a
biggest
bad
pickups.
Where
year.
have you been?
Well, not a bad year, just hasn't been
It-
putting
no,
up the
exactly.
numbers
Not
he's supposed
for
to.
Khalil, yeah.
Eddie Jackson, where have you been?
Yeah.
All these studs from 2 years ago when they were playing the Eagles and Cody Parkey missed the field goal to, send them to the next round are not being those guys anymore.
Yeah.
And you look at Matt Nagy, Matt Nagy's kind of being an idiot because he does he did the same thing with Trubisky, where he pulled Nick Foles, put Trubisky, and then put Nick. Dude, you have to get your team together because you see in the pregame warmups those videos of Trubisky being like, "Let's go, boys!" The guys are like, "Come on, I'm not I'm not following you.
Man.
Like Matt Nagy is the head coach, and that's me as a person. I feel like the head coach needs to take control of the guys. And maybe it's just in college and high school because you have more of a relationship. It's not a business.
Yeah.
But in the NFL, you look at people, they follow Sean Payton. They follow people.
And they'll fight for guys like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true. And the last guy I want to hit on this list, Derrick Henry, King Henry, another monster game, 27 carries, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns. Thank you for adding him in there, Hunter, at the end there. I don't know how I glossed over that insane stat line. But MVP conversation. You made that note. What do you think?
Yes.
Yes?
Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, for some reason, when it hits November, hits playoff time, he just cranks it up to a certain. This was the game. This was the game where Derrick Henry is going to rush for 100+ yards for the rest of the season, and he's going to rush for a touchdown at least every game for the rest of the season.
And Drew said if he does that,
I'll take 120. And
he will.
If he does that this week, it's going to be
He will rush like. Playoff Henry is a different type of Henry we saw last year when they beat the Patriots. When they beat the Patriots, they beat the Baltimore Ravens,
and they should have beat the Chiefs.
They were one drive away from beating the Chiefs.
Very true.
The Tennessee's a great team, and I think they will handily beat the Browns this week.
All about who gets hot at the right time. We saw it was Tennessee last year. Can they do it again? Can they get started and get that momentum going when they need it the most?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Henry is a different animal when it hits November, December.
Meaningful football, basically.
Yes, their O-line is hurt, but when you have a great back like that, you only need 3-4 guys blocking up there, and one guy misses his block, you make one miss, run him over, touchdown.
That's the luxury you have when you have a back like that.
One thing I'm going to say, we're talking about guys who are getting hot. I want to ask you guys, just, you may not have an answer right now. A guy who needs to step up for me, Kyler Murray. They've lost 2 in a row.
Inconsistent, yeah.
They've lost 2 in a row. He was in the MVP race, like Kyler versus Russ, right? D-Hop and DK were like,
yep.
Kyler for MVP, Russ for MVP. And also Russ, too. Russ
Both
and Kyler
of those guys have
need
dropped
to
off.
step up. It was Russ and Kyler, and now it's Mahomes and Rodgers and kind of Derrick Henry. Your teams are getting down, not as the Seahawks as much as the Cardinals.
Yeah.
The Cardinals need to step up. They have a huge game against the Rams coming up soon. Kyler needs to step up and be that guy.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. Kyler's got to step up, got to be that guy. And you know what? You got to tell a friend about Division I rejects. That's what you got to do. Like that?
Step up.
Like that.
Step up.
Make the move.
Kobe
Make
just
the play.
stepped up to the plate.
Yo,
I stepped up with that segue. That's all it is.
E plus R equals O.
E plus R equals O. Effort plus reaction equals the outcome. That's what I want you to take away from this episode of Division I
We were
Rejects.
never taught that at Oxford.
If you're watching,
That's why you lost to us.
that's
so
why
many
you
years
lost.
in a row.
Yeah. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. If you're listening, thank you so much. It doesn't either way. It means a lot.
If you made it to the end of the episode, thank you.
Wow, that's a good point. I never really think about that when I do my sign off.
If you're listening right here,
You're a real one.
you're a real one.
You're a real one.
Send me a
Anyways,
Venmo request. I'll send you $1.
be a friend. Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa!
Cut it.
What's the name?
This is the one.
Kobe Manzo, Hunter Chambers, Drew Carpenter, Division I Rejects. Be a friend, tell a friend about the podcast. Let's see if we can get some more great guests on for next week. A lot of great football this weekend. Have a great one.